Rafael Monteiro's office was on the 32nd floor of a mirrored building in downtown Sao Paulo. From up there, people looked like ants, and perhaps that's how he saw them. Not out of cruelty, but out of habit. When you spend years looking at the world from above, you forget what the ground is like. That Tuesday morning, he was signing contracts, answering curt messages, and drinking his third coffee without tasting it. He was 36 years old with a net worth exceeding 9 figures, and a triplex apartment where he slept alone every night. There were employees, drivers, assistants. There were women who showed up at dinners and disappeared before breakfast. He had everything money could buy and nothing he didn't know how to ask for. That's when the receptionist called, her voice hesitant, saying there was a woman at the front desk. A simple woman, in worn clothes, holding a baby in her arms. She said she needed to speak with him, that it was urgent, that she wouldn't leave until he received her. Rafael almost ordered security to remove her. Almost. But something in the description, an old, thin woman with a baby wrapped in a light blue blanket, made his hand stop in midair before he could give the order. He couldn't say why. "Tell her to come upstairs," he said, and returned to his chair, annoyed with himself. The office door opened 5 minutes later. The woman entered slowly, as if stepping into unfamiliar territory. Her face was marked by wrinkles not only of age, but of a hard life. Her brown eyes were red, but dry, as if she had already cried all she had to cry. In her lap, the baby slept, oblivious to the world, its tiny fingers closed around the edge of the blanket. Rafael stood behind the table without approaching. He looked at the woman with the polite impatience of someone accustomed to dealing with requests for money. "Madame, you have 2 minutes," he said. The woman was not intimidated. She raised her chin, not arrogantly, but with the firmness of someone carrying a mission greater than herself. He took a step forward and said in a hoarse, almost whispered voice, "This baby is yours. The mother died. She died begging me to look for you." The air in the office seemed to grow heavier. Rafael felt the words hit him like ice water. He couldn't answer immediately. His eyes drifted down to the baby, then back to the woman, then down again. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "My name is Donna Teresa," she continued. "I took care of Camila for the last few months. She lived in a rented room near the municipal market. She worked as a cook until she could no longer stand. She never asked anything of anyone, never. But before closing her eyes for the last time, she held my hand and said, 'Find Rafael. Tell him the child is his. Tell him I never wanted to interfere in his life. But this child deserves a father.'" Rafael leaned on the table. His legs seemed to have forgotten how to support him. Camila. The name struck a spot inside him that he thought he'd locked away forever. Camila with the dark eyes, Camila who laughed at silly things, Camila who made coffee as if it were a sacred ceremony. Camila, whom he met on a rainy night in a small restaurant in the east side of town where he entered by mistake because the GPS got him wrong. She was the cook, he was the lost customer, and for 3 months they lived something he never knew how to name, neither before nor after. He remembered the smell of cumin on her hands, the way she tied her hair back with an old elastic band while cooking. How she looked at him without haste, without surprise, without the forced reverence that all the others showed when they found out who he was. Camila wasn't impressed by surnames or credit cards, and perhaps that was exactly what scared him. When the 3 months were over, Rafael did what he always did. He disappeared. There was no fight, there was no explanation. He simply stopped showing up. He changed his number, he changed the course of his days. And when guilt hit him, because it always hit him, he convinced himself that he had done what was best for both of them, that different worlds don't mix, that she deserved someone more present, more available. It was easier to believe that than to admit that he was afraid of being truly seen, afraid that this simple and honest woman would discover that inside he was less than he seemed, and now she was dead. And he held onto the edge of the table as if it were the edge of a precipice. Donna Teresa continued speaking, without haste, without anger. She recounted that Camila discovered her pregnancy weeks after Rafael disappeared, that she tried to find him, but didn't have his full last name, didn't know where he really lived. He had always been vague about his life, a habit he cultivated so as not to become attached to anyone. Camila worked until the 7th month, saving every penny. She never complained, she never blamed anyone. When the baby was born, she named him Miguel, because it meant who was like God, and she believed that God would take care of what she couldn't. But the delivery was difficult, there were complications, and Camila, who was already weak, who was already eating less so that the baby would eat more, couldn't hold on. The doctors did what they could. She lasted another 11 days. In the last few days, I could barely open my eyes. But every time I woke up, the first thing I did was turn my face to the makeshift crib next to the bed and check if Miguel was there. And the second thing I did was repeat to Donna Teresa, "Find his father, promise me." Donna Teresa promised. And it took 43 days to fulfill the promise. 43 days knocking on doors, asking, searching for a man she only knew by his first name and by his face on an old cell phone, a photo Camila had kept as if it were a treasure. Donna Teresa didn't have money for the bus every day. She walked, sometimes with the baby in her arms under the sun, under the rain. She asked in restaurants, in commercial buildings, at doormen's offices, until a young woman in a bakery recognized the face from the photo and said, "That's Rafael Monteiro, the businessman. He has an office in that mirrored building over there." And Donna Teresa came. Rafael sat down. He didn't ask her to prove anything. He didn't ask for a DNA test. He didn't call lawyers. He looked at the sleeping baby and saw, in the outline of that tiny face, the shape of his own eyes. He saw in the lips the curve he saw in the mirror every morning. And he felt something break inside him, not with a bang, but with the sound of a slow crack, like ice melting after a winter that was too long. He stretched out his arms. Donna Teresa hesitated for a second. She looked at him with a gaze that was both protective and hopeful. Then carefully she placed Miguel in his father's arms. The baby stirred, made a small sound, almost a sigh, and continued sleeping. Rafael stood there for a long time. The entire office seemed to have vanished. The contracts, the monitors, the city below. Only the light weight in his arms and the soft scent of talcum powder and milk remained. He didn't cry. Not immediately. But his eyes welled up in a way he hadn't experienced since childhood, since before he learned that men like him shouldn't show weakness. Donna Teresa placed a clear plastic bag on the table. Inside were a change of clothes for the baby, a baby bottle, a birth certificate, and an envelope. In the envelope, a letter. The handwriting was irregular, faint, written by someone who could barely hold a pen. Rafael opened the letter after Donna Teresa had already left, following his insistence that she accept money, and her refusal twice before finally accepting just enough to pay the overdue rent. He read Camila's words alone, with the baby still in his arms. She didn't accuse him of anything. She didn't apologize. She didn't beg. The letter was short and said something he reread so many times the letters were blurred. "I never hated you for leaving. I just wanted you to know that there was someone who loved you without wanting anything in return. And now there is someone who will love you like that forever, if you let him. Take care of him, Rafael, not because I'm asking you to, but because he's the best thing I've ever done in my life. And the best part of you, too." He didn't sleep that night, nor the next. He stayed in the enormous apartment with that tiny baby, trying to figure out how to warm a bottle, how to change a diaper, how to hold a child without hurting them. He called his mother, with whom he barely spoke, and she came from Campinas on the first flight, without questions, without judgment, just with a suitcase and the disposition of someone who had waited years to be needed again. In the days that followed, Rafael canceled meetings. He turned off his work cell phone. He sent short messages to his partners saying he needed time. Nobody understood. He had never needed time for anything other than work. But something was happening to him that he couldn't explain, even to himself. Every time Miguel opened his eyes, dark like his mother's, Rafael felt as if someone were opening the curtains of a room that had been closed for years. The light entered slowly, and it hurt, but he didn't want to close them again. He returned to the neighborhood where Camila lived. He went to the rented room. He found a narrow bed, a kitchen that was too clean for its size, a 2-burner stove. In the corner, a cardboard box with baby clothes, all bought at a thrift store, all washed and folded with the care of someone who doesn't have much but cherishes what little they have as if it were gold. There was also a notebook. In it, Camila recorded the days of her pregnancy, the baby's kicks, the recipes she invented to save money, the names she considered, and, on several pages, short phrases about Rafael. Not bitter, nostalgic, like someone writing about a season that passed too soon. Rafael closed his notebook and sat on her bed for a long time, listening to the sounds of the neighborhood through the window, children playing, a radio playing country music, a motorcycle passing by, sounds he had never noticed when he lived nearby, 3 months pretending to be someone simpler than he was. He was no longer who he once was. He didn't yet know who he was becoming, but he knew he could no longer live looking down on the world without feeling the weight of the ground. In the following weeks, he searched for Donna Teresa. She lived alone in a back room of a house in Itaim Paulista, surviving on a pension that barely covered her electricity and water bills. She was 71 years old and had arthritis in her knees that made her walk slowly. Even so, he had crossed the entire city on foot with a baby in his arms to fulfill a promise made to a woman who wasn't even related to him. Rafael asked why she did that. Donna Teresa looked at him simply and said, "Because she asked me to. And when someone who is dying asks you for something, you do it. It's not a favor, it's respect." He wanted to move Donna Teresa to a better apartment. She refused. She said she liked where she lived, that she knew her neighbors, that the baker saved bread for her every day. But she agreed, with some reluctance, to come see the boy every week. And during these visits, she would sit on the sofa in the triplex with the same ease with which she would sit on the kitchen stool in her own house, hold Miguel in her lap, and hum songs that Rafael had never heard. Old lullabies, the kind that don't exist on any music app. Miguel was growing. And each week, Rafael saw more of Camila in him. The way he tilted his head when something caught his attention. The calmness in his eyes. The smile that came slowly as if it needed permission. And Rafael, who had never been a father, who had never planned to be a father, who thought that fatherhood was a responsibility he could outsource, as he did with everything else in life, discovered that there is no possible delegation when a baby cries at 3 a.m. and only calms down on your chest. He discovered that caring for someone requires the one thing money can't buy: presence, being there, waking up, listening, holding, repeating. And he, who had spent his whole life running from commitments, now had a bond that couldn't be broken by a vague message or a change of number. 6 months later, Rafael made a decision that shocked his partners, his lawyers, and the entire gossip column that constantly commented on his life. He reduced his stake in the company. He didn't quit, but he stepped back. He started working fewer hours. He moved from the triplex apartment to a house with a yard in a leafy neighborhood because Dona Teresa said that children need space to crawl. He hired a nanny, but insisted on bathing the children himself every night, with the same seriousness with which he previously analyzed financial statements. One Sunday morning, while having coffee in the new kitchen, a kitchen he had equipped thinking about how Camila would have enjoyed cooking there, he realized he no longer felt that chronic emptiness he had previously mistaken for ambition. He hadn't filled the void with success, nor with money, nor with achievements. He had filled it with a 6-month-old boy who at that moment was trying to put his whole foot in his mouth and thought it was the most extraordinary thing in the world. Rafael began visiting Camila's grave once a month. He brought flowers, simple ones, the kind she would buy. He stayed silent. He didn't pray because he never knew how to pray properly. But he spoke to her, softly, as if she could hear him. He told her about Miguel, about his first tooth, about the first time he said something resembling a word, about how Dona Teresa laughed until she cried when the boy pulled her glasses off and crawled away with them. And on one of those visits, standing before the simple gravestone with the cold July wind hitting his face, Rafael finally said what he had never said in life. "Forgive me, not for leaving, but for not staying. You deserved someone who would stay. I will be that someone for our son." He didn't know if she heard, but when he returned to the car and looked in the rearview mirror, Miguel was in the back seat, looking at him with those dark, calm eyes, her eyes, and smiling. An open smile without reason, without motive, like only children know how to give. A smile that asked for nothing, that demanded nothing, that simply existed, pure like the morning light entering through a forgotten window. And Rafael, for the first time in many years, smiled back. Not the smile she wore in meetings, not the smile she practiced for photographs, but a real smile, the kind that comes from within. The kind that hurts a little because it needs to go through layers of old things to reach the surface. That night, he placed Miguel in the crib, covered him with the same light blue blanket that Dona Teresa had brought him in, already worn, already faded, but which he refused to replace, and stood there, watching his son sleep. The world outside kept turning. Markets rose and fell. Mirrored buildings reflected the morning sun and faded at night. People kept running, buying, competing, fleeing. But there, in that room, in that silence, something had finally stopped running away. Rafael rested his forehead against the crib railing and closed his eyes. And for the first time, resting didn't seem like a waste of time. It seemed like the beginning of everything.